Welcome to the Tech Mobility Podcast, brought to you by Playbook Investors Network, your strategic partner for unstoppable growth. Visit pincommunity.org to get started.
I'm Ken Chester. On the docket, Gen Z's anxious driving experience, NOAA's improved flood mapping tool, and no more spilled coffee. To join the conversation by sharing an opinion, asking a question, or even suggesting a topic for future discussion, call or text the Tech Mobility Hotline. That number, 872-222-9793, or you can email the show directly, talk@techmobility.show. For those of you who enjoy Substack, you can find me there as a proud member of the Iowa Writers Collaborative, and that's at Ken C. Iowa. Ken, the letter C, IOWA. From the Tech Mobility News Desk. This piece is from the Detroit Free Press, and they reported that a recent test by the Insurance Institute for Highway Safety, their researchers recently tested seatbelt efficiency through simulations of a head-on collision, adding rear passengers for the first time. Bottom line, only 3 Detroit vehicles made the list for rear passenger safety. Here's a shocker. Minivans and pickups provide less protection for backseat passengers than is common for front seats. That's according to the Insurance Institute for Highway Safety after they updated their safety testing program this year. The findings of the IIHS Top Safety Pick Awards show that the risk of a fatal injury is higher for belted adults in the rear seat of newer vehicles than in the front. Let that sink in for a minute. Sitting in the back seat of a newer vehicle today is more dangerous for those sitting back there than somebody sitting in the front seat. And they tested this in a head-on collision. It means that the safety equipment as currently configured in today's vehicles, if you're in the back seat, the rear seat is less safe for you. Now that sounds a little counterintuitive, doesn't it? Because you would think the folks in front that are experiencing head-on the collision would be in dire straits. Well, let's break that down a little bit. First, I need to explain a couple of things. One, that the IIHS increased the requirements so that second-row occupants have the same level of protection afforded by advanced seatbelts in the front row. As a result, fewer vehicle models overall have qualified for awards this year, just 48 in total, down from 71 at this point last year. Since we're on a counterintuitive tip, consider this. Small and midsize SUVs accounted for the bulk of the top performers. Now that just should mess up everything you ever believed about weight and safety and numbers, and because we thought forever that the heavier the vehicle, the safer you are. Not necessarily true anymore. Over the last 25 years, automakers have been making tremendous strides in improving the safety of front passengers. Seatbelts that pre-tension. In other words, they anticipate the crash and they snug up to keep you in place during the crash so that the safety equipment around you, typically the many airbags that are now standard in a vehicle, can do their job and protect you. That other things like a steering wheel and a dashboard that's designed to absorb force. That the vehicle is designed in an off-frontal or head-on crash to deflect the energies of that crash away from the passenger compartment. And as a result, nowadays, even in the most serious of crashes, you can still open the front doors of a vehicle. They don't jam. People can get out. To y'all that are still not wearing seatbelts, consider this. That equipment, particularly around seatbelts, is designed to have you in place so that everything around you will work as engineered. Because if you're in that place and it knows you're there, then the vehicle will do its utmost to protect you. If you're not wearing a seatbelt, you're out of place due to the tremendous forces exerted in energy in a crash. And that means that those safety devices will not be as effective at protecting you from harm and injury. So let me read this again. Small and midsize SUVs accounted for the bulk of the top performance. And we are talking about folks in the back seat being safe in a nasty crash. Of this year's winners, 12 won top safety pick, while the rest reached top safety pick plus status. Small and midsize SUVs. Out of all the pickups that are sold in America right now, here's some more hard truth. There are only 2 large pickups that met the higher standards placed on the award winners for this year. And they're not who you think they are. The 2 large pickups, the Rivian R1T and the Toyota Tundra, both met the higher standards placed on award winners for this year. No mini cars, large cars, minivans, or small pickups made the list from nobody. That means that the majority mass market companies, and I'll name names, Chevrolet, Ram, GMC, Ford, didn't make it, at large or small. None of the small Toyota trucks made it either. The Tacoma didn't make the list, but the Tundra did. Enhanced safety requirements culled all vehicles produced by the big 3 from the winner's circle except for 3. And again, not the ones you think. The Ford Mustang Mach-E, the Lincoln Nautilus, both reached top safety pick plus status. And the only Chevy to make the list, the Chevrolet Traverse, made top safety pick. And I'm going to let you, by my silence, hear what I didn't say, who didn't make the list at all. What bothers me, there's not a minivan built by anybody that made this list. That is a problem. We trust our families. We trust our kids, our wives, our grandparents, our parents in these vehicles that they sell by the millions. And more often than not, it's our kids and grandkids in the second and third rows, what we call precious cargo. And none of those minivans, not a single one, not Stellantis, not Toyota, not Honda, not Kia, not any of them made the list, are worthy of protecting our kids, are worthy of protecting our grandkids. Yes, the IIHS made standards tougher. And I should say this too, their standards are tougher than federal requirements. But the progress that the automakers have made in these last 25, 30 years has been because of the IIHS tests, not the federal government. They're going to use this to encourage automakers to step up like they did in the front end, because not so long ago, it was only the driver up front that was protected well. The front passenger was at risk. They started showing that in tests as they started concentrating on that, and that changed. We can only hope that as the automakers review these results, that they will do what's necessary to protect folks in the back seat, to protect our precious cargo, our kids, our grandkids, our great-grandkids. Because they trust us and we want them safe. But it's kind of hard to justify when none of the vehicles that are popular in that crowd meet these higher standards, and that they're more likely to be hurt than their parents up front. When it comes to driving, Gen Zers are anxious. There's a school for that. You are listening to the Tech Mobility Show.
In business, opportunity doesn't wait, and neither should you. At Playbook Investors Network, we connect visionary entrepreneurs with the strategies, resources, and capital they need to win. Whether you're launching, scaling, or reimagining your business, our network turns ambition into measurable success. Your vision deserves more than a plan. It deserves a playbook that works. Playbook Investors Network, where bold ideas meet bold results. Visit pincommunity.org today.
Are you tired of juggling multiple apps and platforms for meetings, webinars, and staying connected? Look no further than AONmeetings.com, the all-in-one browser-based platform that does it all. With AON Meetings, you can effortlessly communicate with clients, host virtual meetings and webinars, and stay in touch with family and friends, all in one place and for one price. Here's the best part. You can enjoy a 30-day free trial. It's time to simplify your life and boost your productivity. AONmeetings.com, where innovation meets connection. Get started today and revolutionize the way you communicate.
To learn more about the Tech Mobility Show, start by visiting our website. I'm Ken Chester, host of the Tech Mobility Show. The website is a treasure trove of information about me and the show, as well as where to find it on the radio across the country. Keep up with the happenings at the Tech Mobility Show by visiting techmobility.show. You can also drop us a line at talk@techmobility.show.
Every great business starts with a spark, but taking it to the next level takes strategy, connections, and capital. That's where Playbook Investors Network comes in. We're your strategic partner for accelerating growth, navigating challenges, and capturing market opportunities before your competition does. Your business is more than an idea. Let's make it an impact. Playbook Investors Network. Your future starts here. Learn more at pincommunity.org.
The all-new Mazda Protege has more room than any car in its class. But what class is it? After all, it has more room inside than a Honda Civic, more room than a Nissan Altima, even more than a 5 Series BMW. So what class would you guess the new Protege is in? Well, here's a hint. The all-new Mazda Protege. But there's a surprise in every package.
And 30 years ago, you could have bought that car new for a little over $11,560, brand new. The Mazda Protege was the vehicle after the Mazda TLC, which was a subcompact, and before the popular Mazda 3. It's what they built in the mid-1990s. And it was competing against the Toyota Corolla. It was competing against the Honda Civic, to name a few. So they had to stand out. And this was before they adopted their driver-centric campaign called Zoom Zoom, which most people still remember. But yeah, the Mazda Protege, they wanted to compete on price and value, and that was their ticket. Back in the day, getting a driver's license was considered a rite of passage, a gateway to freedom, an important step on the way to adulthood. I remember getting my driver's license in December, and I'm going to date myself, of 1974. And no, I did not pass it on my first time. It took a second time. And I remember the vehicle I got it in. It was a 1974 Plymouth Valiant Custom 4-door blue, pretty blue. And it changed your life. I mean, I lived out, quote unquote, in the country. So getting around was a big deal. You could take your date to the dance. You could hang out with your buddies. You could get back and forth to work without your parents having to pick you up and drop you off. And I could finally leave my 10-speed bike at home. My first car cost $60. My father found it. And that car would be considered a full-size car today. It was considered an intermediate. Back then, it wasn't the biggest thing that Detroit made, but today it would be considered that. It didn't have power steering. It didn't have power brakes. It didn't have automatic windows. It was a 3-speed manual on the column. It had, in fact, I think, did it even have AM radio? It might have had AM radio. But it was freedom, buddy. Ooh. it was freedom. And I love that car. It was freedom. But in today's tech-based and digitally connected world, all that doesn't mean so much. In fact, Gen Zers, and they define Gen Zers as those from 13 to 28 years of age, don't necessarily feel the need to get licensed. With fewer teens getting behind the wheel, the choice to actually step to a driver's license or step up for a driver's license is giving them anxiety. Anxiety. But as always, there's a school for that. This is Topic A. Let me start with this little factoid. The AAA talks about danger for teens. And in fact, they say that the number one cause of death for teenagers 15 to 18 is motor vehicle accidents. In fact, during the summer, AAA calls the stretch from Memorial to Labor Day the 100 deadliest days when teen driver crash fatalities spike. And in fact, between 2019 and 2023, crashes involved teen drivers killed over 13,100 people, and with a third of those deaths happening during the summer. According to the AAA, the fatality rate during summer averages about 8 lives lost in teen-involved crashes per day, compared with 7 during the rest of the year. And here's something every parent knows. Each teen passenger in a vehicle with a teen driver exponentially increases the crash risk. The number I heard, for every additional teenager in the car, it doubles. It doubles. The risk doubles. I want to let that sink in. For a while now, we've been talking about the fact that, and I hate to use the term, but kids nowadays, oh my, they're not so much into driving, but between social media and other ways that they can be social digitally. The need for the freedom to be mobile and social, or to be mobile in order to be social, less of an issue. But what they find out is that it's still a world where Uber rides and other ride sharing and public transportation will only take you so far. For some job situations and some employment situations, you will need to drive. We've talked about the price of cars nowadays, and it's downright ridiculous. The average price of a new vehicle is right around $50,000. Average. And that's hard to swallow with increasing inflation rates, increasing insurance. And insurance has always been a challenge for young people under 25. It's always been steep. Always. So you're looking at all of that. Why drive, right? But sometimes you just got to do it. Enter in a company called Coastline Academy. They were founded in 2017. They trained more than 250,000 students in 9 states and 500 cities. 500 cities. 250,000 people since 2017. 8 years. The tech-driven business with mobile booking, automated reminders, and a modern fleet with GPS tracking, video recording, and emergency equipment, it's not your father's driver's ed. And this has grown because driver's ed programs in schools, a lot of them were curtailed back 30 years ago. So you didn't have what we had back in the day, where you had a math teacher or a gym teacher make a little extra money on the side by being a driver's ed teacher. And the local car dealership would donate a car and they'd have their name plastered on the side, driver's ed sponsored by, which was a pretty good idea if you were trying to introduce kids to a vehicle they might like and may want to buy someday. What better way to introduce them to get them used to your car? And back then, it was all about cars. We didn't have the minivans. We didn't have the SUVs. We didn't have the crossovers back then. It was cars. They were big cars, little cars, but it was cars. This company generates $20 million a year. And check this out. It's been growing 50% a year. Their students are almost as likely to pass the driving test on their first attempt than the average test taker in California, according to the company. There are folks out there. So if you're a Gen Zer and you're thinking about driving, but mom and dad said, we're not taking you out there. Well, there's a school for that. And chances are they understand you and they will help you get that license so you can go into the big bad world while you're waiting for autonomous cars to come. Because my kids would much rather have an autonomous car any day of the week. I've asked them. They don't like driving. But then again, for that reason, my wife doesn't like driving either. Guess I'm the only one in the family that does. Oh, well, I've always been a little different. The National Weather Service has significantly expanded its flood inundation mapping tool. It now covers 60% of the U.S. population. We are the Tech Mobility Show.
You've got the drive. You've got the vision. Now you need the right partner to make it happen. At Playbook Investors Network, we power ambitious leaders with the tools, insight, and investment connections to move faster, grow stronger, and lead markets. We're more than advisors. We're your co-pilots in success. Because in business, standing still is not an option. Playbook Investors Network, fueling ambition, delivering results. Visit pincommunity.org.
Did you know that Tech Mobility has a YouTube channel? Hi, I'm Ken Chester, host of the Tech Mobility Show. Each week, I upload a few short videos of some of the hot topics that I cover during my weekly radio program. I've designed these videos to be informative and entertaining. It's another way to keep up on current mobility and technology news and information. Be sure to watch, like, and subscribe to my channel. That's the Tech Mobility Show on YouTube. Check it out. The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, better known as NOAA, through its National Weather Service, has announced a major expansion of its experimental flood inundation mapping tool. This tool delivers near real-time, high-resolution, street-level visualizations of floodwaters, helping the National Weather Service forecasters issue more accurate flood watches and warnings. I have mixed feelings about this. Is this a good thing? Welcome to Topic B. Being able to forecast weather, being able to anticipate extreme weather. The National Weather Service will tell you that actually flooding is the most frequent severe weather-related threat and our costliest natural disaster. And that wasn't some tree-hugging liberal saying that. That was David Valley, Director of the Service Innovation and Partnership Division at NOAA's National Water Center. He said that. They've expanded this tool to cover 60% of the United States. Eventually, it will cover the entire United States. Here's where they expanded it recently. I want to read this. This is what new coverage they've just added. Hawaii and the West Coast. Portions of south central Alaska, including Cook Inlet, Kenai Peninsula, Copper River, and Prince William Sound watersheds. Think about this one. The Southwest and the Great Plains, and the Great Lakes and interior Southeast. Let's stop right there. Typically, when you think about flooding, when you think about severe weather, you're thinking about the coast. You're thinking about hurricanes coming up the Atlantic, typhoons coming up the Pacific, something generating in the Gulf of Mexico. That's what you're thinking about. However, what's happening more and more is severe weather in the interior parts. Up till now, I bet you didn't know that they actually had a National Water Center. They track water. Didn't say rain. I said water. Why is that important? As we get more extreme weather more often, It's rivers, not oceans, that are becoming the new battleground for damage and wiped out. And in fact, one of my affiliates in one of these major floods had their entire installation, their antenna, their office, and everything wiped off the face of the map. And they were hundreds of miles from the ocean. They were actually in the foothills and lost everything. And bless them, they're back on the air now, and I'm grateful for that. But more and more and more, severe weather and this severe flooding is impacting rivers in the interior of our country. And you're probably wondering, if you were listening, I said the Southwest, the parched, dry Southwest. Why would you be tracking a place that hardly gets any water? Because flash floods are a real thing. And they have a different situation as opposed to maybe the upper Midwest, where we may get a steady rain or different situations. This tool helps first responders and others by actually showing them simulations at street level of what's most likely to flood and where. It is very precise. And I think that's probably the part that scares me. I'm glad, on the one hand, that the National Weather Service has a tool like this, but I'm also dismayed that it's even required, that it's even necessary, that things are getting so bad now. We used to worry about coastal flooding and coastal damage. And every now and then you might hear something about a flood, or usually because a dam burst or something abnormal in the middle of the country, or those locations far away from rivers. Far away from oceans and coasts. Most people think Iowa's flat, for example, and there are some parts of Iowa that is tabletop flat. But we have bluffs in the west and we have hills in the east. And we're bounded by rivers. In this state, we've got the Missouri River, which forms our western boundary, and the Mississippi forms our eastern boundary. And we have rivers in the middle, like the Des Moines River, the Cedar River, and countless others. And about, 17 years ago, the Cedar River, which went through Cedar Rapids, got ugly. And they're still rebuilding. It flooded downtown. It wiped out city blocks in 2008. And we are thousands of miles from any coast. Shoot, the lakes, the big bodies of water we have in Iowa are man-made. And they are designed to do flood control and water control across the Des Moines River. Our two biggest dams are controlling water flow on the Des Moines River. There are no such dams on the Cedar River. This new tool helps provide approximate spatial estimates of land area that is covered in water based on modeled forecast river flows and current conditions, with detailed information on where the flooding impacts may occur. In this piece, it talks about an example of the mapping services, and they show a simulated image of potential flooding over Warfield, Kentucky, along the Tug Fork River in February of this year. And it's color-coded. It shows the forecast extent of inundation and extends away from the river channel to indicate numerous structures and streets that may be affected by floodwaters. Local emergency teams used those maps to deploy the National Guard with high water vehicles to affected neighborhoods, where they evacuated all the residents before the water entered their apartments. That is the level of technology available to us now. But my concern is we are getting to a tipping point where we need this level of safety. We need this forecasting tool to protect life and to know where to send help and to get people out of harm's way. Is this a case maybe of closing the barn door after the fact, after the animals have run out? The National Weather Service and FEMA have also updated their flood maps to reflect those low-lying areas that are subject to flooding, because that is how the government, who is the insurer of last resort when it comes to flood insurance, they're the only ones that offer it, determine what the rates are going to be. And they rely on those maps. Superimpose this information on that map, what do you got? So I'm grateful for the technology, but I'm worried at the same time because we need it. And if anything, we're going to need it more and more for all the wrong reasons. So, too much of a good thing, not enough? I don't know. But it will help prevent loss of life. And for that aspect, I am grateful. Automotive brake suppliers are designing systems to save your coffee from spilling in the car. This is the Tech Mobility Show.
Are you tired of juggling multiple apps and platforms for meetings, webinars, and staying connected? Look no further than AONmeetings.com, the all-in-one browser-based platform that does it all. With AON Meetings, you can effortlessly communicate with clients, host virtual meetings and webinars, and stay in touch with family and friends, all in one place and for one price. Here's the best part. You can enjoy a 30-day free trial. It's time to simplify your life and boost your productivity. AONmeetings.com, where innovation meets connection. Get started today and revolutionize the way you communicate.
To learn more about the Tech Mobility Show, start by visiting our website. Hi, I'm Ken Chester, host of the Tech Mobility Show. The website is a treasure trove of information about me and the show, as well as where to find it on the radio across the country. Keep up with the happenings at the Tech Mobility Show by visiting techmobility.show. That's techmobility.show. You can also drop us a line at talk@techmobility.show.
In business, opportunity doesn't wait, and neither should you. At Playbook Investors Network, we connect visionary entrepreneurs with the strategies, resources, and capital they need to win. Whether you're launching, scaling, or reimagining your business, our network turns ambition into measurable success. Your vision deserves more than a plan. It deserves a playbook that works. Playbook Investors Network, where bold ideas meet bold results. Visit pincommunity.org today.
Did you know that Tech Mobility has a YouTube channel? Hi, I'm Ken Chester, host of the Tech Mobility Show. Each week, I upload a few short videos of some of the hot topics that I cover during my weekly radio program. I've designed these videos to be informative and entertaining. It's another way to keep up on current mobility and technology news and information. Be sure to watch, like, and subscribe to my channel. That's the Tech Mobility Show on YouTube. Check it out. Okay, so are you one of those people? I mean, those who actually mastered the ability to drink hot coffee while driving. As for me, I love my coffee, hot coffee, by the way, but behind the wheel, car-friendly coffee canisters and me, not so much. This segment is for those of you who've not only mastered the fine art of driving while caffeinated, or is that caffeinating, and have already had the tragedy, and for the record, spilled coffee, and I'm only talking about hot coffee, is a tragedy, not to be wasted, third-degree burns notwithstanding. But I digress. Automotive brake suppliers want to eliminate the drama of spilled coffee during hard braking, and I didn't know that this was a major problem. This is Topic C. It gets down to what they call weight transfer. And what happens is when you hit the brakes, it's inertia. The rest of the car wants to keep going. So as the car dives forward and the weight shifts to the front, and you get that nosedive. Or when you stomp on the gas, car kind of rears up and the weight goes backwards. It's all about weight transfer. Well, a number of brake suppliers, Bosch, Continental, and ZF, all three of them, have developed technology to mitigate that effect of weight transfer during low-speed braking, reducing the risk of a coffee spill. Now, in fairness, I have spilled coffee in the car, and it's ucky, yucky. It gets all sticky and stuff, and you usually never have a paper towel or a napkin to wipe it up. And so okay. So it might be a problem. I just wonder okay, with everything else that they need to be working on, why is this the issue? Well, it turns out it's a little bit bigger than that. These companies have developed what they call variable pressure braking technology that can at least battle the laws of physics to a nearly imperceptible draw, if not defeat them. By changing the pressure applied to the front and rear brakes at the precise moment, the driver's head won't jerk and the coffee will stay in its cup as the car comes to a stop. As always, there's a trade-off, and here's this one. Stopping distances are increased slightly as the brake system pressure changes with the speed of the vehicle. Here's the part that bothers me. Comfort Stop, Bosch's system, their technology, is due to launch in North America in 2028. And you're going, well, what's the big deal about that? Well, it's available in China right now. And you're like, okay, so? But Chinese electric vehicle brand BYD was the first to deploy it in 2021. By the time we get it, it will have been in China for 7 years. Why are we so backwards? Consider this. Let's talk safety for a minute. Let's digress. Let's put your coffee aside, talk safety. What does Comfort Stop mean in an emergency hard stop? If the result is it's going to move a few more feet than normal, is there a legal question? What does this do for federal motor safety standards? Will these new systems, which make it a little less dramatic in stopping, but the question is, will this impact safety in the United States? Is this another opportunity for the liability lawyers? That was the question that hit me. Like, okay, you're telling me that, all right, the good news is that I won't spill my coffee. The bad news is, in certain situations, this thing's going to roll a little further than I anticipate. Is that little further the difference between avoiding a crash and being in the middle of one? That's the question. And if so, is there a legal opportunity? Are these legal? Are these new systems legal? Are the braking systems legal? And will they pass muster? Shoot, not just the feds, but the Insurance Institute for Highway Safety. What will insurance companies think? And how will they respond to rates with vehicles equipped with these systems? And what's the backup if they fail? Because they're a little bit different. They're a little bit different. In the case of Comfort Stop, it eliminates the traditional brake booster and the mechanical link between the pedal and the brake master cylinder. Instead, sensors detect when the driver presses the brake pedal. Then a device Bosch calls the integrated power brake moves the piston in the master cylinder, forcing pressurized fluid to the calipers. To create Comfort Stop, Bosch engineers added new software to the integrated power brake that measures gravitational forces and varies the brake pressure as the vehicle slows. Any vehicle with Bosch's integrated power brake that is capable of over-the-air updates can be upgraded to Comfort Stop for just $50. Bunch of questions here, a lot to unpack. The stability and robustness and protection of an over-the-air update to the braking system, can it be hacked? What happens with all these sensors and everything if it's no longer mechanical? What if the sensors fail? What happens to the electronics if they wear out? In a mechanical, it's mechanical. It is fluid. It is pressure. There's not much electronics going on in the braking system. And honestly, truly, braking systems have been pretty much the same for the last 100 years, with the most notable exception, and there are two: analog brakes and disc brakes. Because up till even the late 1960s, you were looking at four-wheel drum brakes, which means they were susceptible to getting wet, which had brake fade. They were susceptible to getting hot and glazing over and losing effectiveness. There was a lot of shortcomings with drum brakes. Disc brakes eliminated a lot of that, allowed them to stop straighter. And for many years, Detroit had front disc brakes, rear drum brakes. And even as they went to all four-wheel disc brakes, a lot of the less expensive vehicles still had front disc rear drums. I don't think that's the case in very few vehicles now. I think everybody has disc brakes because of the ability to dissipate water, dissipate heat, and be safer. Will this save costs, though? I get scared anytime electronics get implemented into basic safety systems like steering and braking. Because when the electronics fail, what's your fail-safe? What's your backup? If they fail while you're underway, what's the plan? Are they redundant? This does not say that these have redundant systems. And they already admit that in the trade-off to stopping smoother is a distance that's a little bit further. Is that going to be okay with regulators and safety people? I don't know. We'll see. They're talking 2028 for the Bosch system in the United States, with Continental and ZF probably following not long after that. I want to see, because I have a feeling the insurance industry is not going to like it that much, and they're going to make you choose between lower rates or your coffee. And I think in this time, it's always the rates.
This is the Tech Mobility Podcast.
Every great business starts with a spark, but taking it to the next level takes strategy, connections, and capital. That's where Playbook Investors Network comes in. We're your strategic partner for accelerating growth, navigating challenges, and capturing market opportunities before your competition does. Your business is more than an idea. Let's make it an impact. Playbook Investors Network. Your future starts here. Learn more at pincommunity.org.
To learn more about the Tech Mobility Show, start by visiting our website. I'm Ken Chester, host of the Tech Mobility Show. The website is a treasure trove of information about me and the show, as well as where to find it on the radio across the country. Keep up with the happenings at the Tech Mobility Show by visiting techmobility.show. You can also drop us a line at talk@techmobility.show.
Are you tired of juggling multiple apps and platforms for meetings, webinars, and staying connected? Look no further than AONmeetings.com, the all-in-one browser-based platform that does it all. With AON Meetings, you can effortlessly communicate with clients, host virtual meetings and webinars, and stay in touch with family and friends, all in one place and for one price. Here's the best part. You can enjoy a 30-day free trial. It's time to simplify your life and boost your productivity. AONmeetings.com, where innovation meets connection. Get started today and revolutionize the way you communicate.
You've got the drive. You've got the vision. Now you need the right partner to make it happen. At Playbook Investors Network, we power ambitious leaders with the tools, insight, and investment connections to move faster, grow stronger, and lead markets. We're more than advisors. We're your co-pilots in success. Because in business, standing still is not an option. Playbook Investors Network, fueling ambition, delivering results. Visit pincommunity.org.